Life can strike with storms we never expect, yet love has the power to keep us standing. Quang was robbed, left jobless, while Linda's farm was destroyed by merciless floods. Everything they worked for seemed lost, but through despair, they held on to each other and with their mother's strength, found hope again. Together, they walked into church not to beg for miracles, but to give thanks for love, for family, for survival. This is a story of resilience, faith, and unshakable unity. Don't forget to subscribe for more heartfelt stories that remind us what truly matters in life.
Life had tested Quang and Linda in ways they had never imagined. It all began with a single misfortune that seemed small compared to what was yet to come. Quang was walking home late one evening when a group of men ambushed him on a deserted street. In just a few seconds, everything he had been carrying, his wallet, his small savings, even the hope of bringing food home, was stripped away. The humiliation and fear of that night stayed with him long after the bruises faded. But worse than the pain of being attacked was the crushing realization that he had no job to rely on anymore. The company he had worked for suddenly cut down its staff, and Quang found himself among those left behind, with no income, no stability, and no idea how to provide for his family. Linda, though heartbroken at his struggles, carried her own burdens. Her beloved farm, the very land she had cultivated with so much devotion, was the symbol of her dreams, her pride, and her contribution to their family's future. She had poured her soul into each patch of soil, rising before dawn, braving the scorching sun, and praying for every harvest. Yet nature, in its unpredictable cruelty, brought down a merciless flood. The rain did not stop for days. The river swelled, angry and unstoppable, until its waters surged into the farm, drowning the fields, uprooting the trees, and carrying away the livestock that had nurtured. When Linda stood on the edge of what used to be her vibrant green land, all she could see was mud, debris, and devastation. The farm that once echoed with life now lay silent, broken, and empty. The two tragedies, one sudden and violent, the other slow and relentless, struck them back to back, leaving Quang and Linda reeling. It felt as though the world was conspiring against them, stripping away every piece of security they had built. Quang, still nursing his own wounds from the robbery and the crushing weight of unemployment, could barely stand to watch the sorrow etched on Linda's face as she surveyed the ruins of her hard work. He wished he could shield her from all of it, wished he had the power to turn back time and stop the flood or fight off the thieves. Instead, all he could do was hold her trembling hand and whisper that they would survive this somehow. What made their suffering even heavier was not only the material loss, but the psychological toll. Nights grew longer, filled with silence and restless thoughts. Quang lay awake, replaying every moment of the robbery in his mind, questioning his strength, his ability to protect. Linda, on the other hand, tried to bury her grief beneath a brave smile, but her heart broke anew each time she thought of the countless mornings she had tended to her plants and animals, only for it all to vanish in a rush of water. They were weary, bruised, not just in body, but in spirit. And yet, beneath all the despair, there was a fragile thread that bound them together. Despite the weight of their struggles, Quang and Linda clung to one undeniable truth: they still had each other. Every look they shared carried unspoken words of comfort. Every hand they held was a promise not to let go, no matter how fierce the storm. Though robbed of money, robbed of stability, and robbed of land, they were not robbed of love. That love became their only refuge, their only weapon against despair. It was not enough to restore the farm, nor to bring back Quang's job, but it was enough to keep them standing side by side in the face of life's cruelty. And as long as they were together, there was still a faint glimmer of hope, even in the darkest night. Linda could feel the weight of their hardships pressing down on her chest. Yet when she turned to look at Quang, she found something that steadied her, his presence, unwavering even in the midst of despair. There was a quiet resilience in the way he held her hand, as though silently vowing that no storm, no loss, no cruel twist of fate would break the bond between them. For Linda, that simple gesture was enough to ignite a fragile spark of strength within her. She knew that even if everything else in their world had collapsed, the money stolen, the farm destroyed, the future uncertain, what remained was a love that refused to shatter. Their little home became a sanctuary. The walls were bare, the meals modest, and the nights heavy with silence. But within those humble moments, they discovered a kind of beauty they had long overlooked. At the dinner table, the three of them, Quang, Linda, and his mother, sat close together, sharing bowls of rice and vegetables that might have seemed plain to anyone else. But to them, every bite tasted like a reminder that they still had one another. When Quang's mother reached out with trembling hands to serve food first to her son and then to Linda, it was as though she was offering not only nourishment, but love, hope, and the silent reassurance that family would carry them through the darkest times. Linda sometimes caught herself staring at Quang in those quiet evenings, wondering how he managed to carry so much pain without crumbling. His shoulders were tired, his eyes heavy with sleeplessness. But whenever she faltered, he would lift her chin and remind her that this was only a season of struggle, that better days would come. He had no money to give, no farm to restore, no job to celebrate. Yet the way he spoke filled her with the courage to keep moving forward. For Quang, seeing Linda smile, even faintly, was enough to erase some of his own doubts. He often thought to himself, if I can keep her hope alive, then I am not completely defeated. In the stillness of the night, when Linda sat beside him on the worn wooden bench outside their home, the two would watch the stars. The sky, vast and endless, reminded them of possibilities yet to come. They talked about rebuilding the farm, about finding new work, about not letting their losses define them. Sometimes their conversations drifted into silence, but even then the quiet was not empty. It was filled with the warmth of shared presence, the comfort of leaning on each other's shoulders, and the certainty that love could soften the hardest blows of life. The pain of losing so much had paradoxically revealed something far more precious than money or land. They realized that possessions could vanish in an instant, but the strength of family endured. When Quang's mother smiled through her wrinkles and said softly, "As long as we are together, we are already rich," Linda felt tears sting her eyes. Those words echoed in her heart, reminding her that true wealth was not counted in coins or acres, but in the bonds that held them together. Slowly, grief began to transform into gratitude. Though their pockets were empty, their hearts carried something unshakable. Each trial, each loss had stripped away illusions, leaving behind only what truly mattered: love, trust, and the unbreakable unity of family. They had discovered a new kind of happiness, one born not from abundance, but from resilience, compassion, and the simple joy of knowing they were not alone. And in that realization, Linda and Quang found the strength to face whatever lay ahead. Sunday morning arrived with a stillness that felt different from the chaos of the days before. The sky was clear, washed clean after the storms, and the air carried a crisp freshness, as if nature itself wanted to offer them a moment of peace. Quang rose early, his hands worn and his body weary, yet there was a quiet determination in his movements. He gently woke Linda and his mother, suggesting they go together to the church, not to ask for wealth or for miracles, but to give thanks for survival, for love, and for the simple grace of still being together. As they walked along the narrow road leading to the small stone church, Linda held Quang's arm tightly, her mother walking slowly beside them. The path was muddy from the recent floods, but every step felt purposeful, almost sacred. For the first time in weeks, there was no rush of panic, no wave of despair pressing down on their shoulders. Instead, there was a calm awareness that despite all they had lost, they had not been abandoned. They carried no treasures with them, only hearts that had been bruised, tested, and yet remained steadfast in faith. The moment they entered the church, the scent of burning candles and the soft hum of prayer embraced them like a comforting blanket. Some light streamed through stained glass windows, casting colors of red, gold, and blue onto the floor. Quang guided his mother to a wooden pew near the front, where the three of them knelt together. For a long while, none of them spoke. Words seemed too small for the depth of what they felt. Instead, tears welled up in their eyes, silent tears of relief, gratitude, and surrender. Quang's heart ached as he bowed his head, whispering a prayer of thanks. He thought of the night he had been robbed, the fear in his chest when he was left bruised and empty-handed. He thought of the endless days of searching for work, of the sleepless nights lying awake beside Linda, and the helplessness he had felt. But now, kneeling here, he realized that through every dark hour, he had never truly been alone. God had not abandoned them. He had preserved what mattered most, their lives and their love. Linda prayed too, her hands trembling as she clasped them together. She remembered the sight of her farm drowned in muddy water, the devastation that had shattered her spirit. But she also remembered how Quang had stood beside her, his hand never letting go of hers, even when she felt like collapsing. And now, here in the presence of God, she found her strength renewed. She whispered her gratitude for the man beside her, for the mother who smiled even in scarcity, and for the invisible hand that had carried them through the storm. Their mother, her voice fragile but steady, prayed aloud. She thanked God for sparing her children, for granting them another day to share love and faith. Her prayer was simple, yet profound. We have lost much, Lord, but you have given us each other. For that, we are rich. Her words rang with such sincerity that Linda and Quang felt their hearts swell with emotion. When the choir began to sing, their voices rising in harmony, it was as if the walls of the church themselves carried the sound to heaven. Quang felt Linda's hand slip into his, and he squeezed it tightly, both of them silently promising that no matter what storms came again, they would face them together. As the service ended, the three of them lingered, reluctant to leave the sacred stillness. Walking back home under the soft morning sun, they felt lighter, their burdens no longer chains, but lessons that had deepened their faith and bound them closer together. The road ahead was still uncertain, yet they now carried within them a quiet, unshakable strength, the kind born of love, family, and gratitude. And with that, they knew that whatever tomorrow brought, they were ready.
Hello, xin chào tất cả các khán giả của kênh Lý Tử Ninda Review. Rất vui vì ngày hôm nay lại gặp được các bạn trong tập phim ngày hôm nay. Trong tập phim ngày hôm nay thì sau khi trải qua rất nhiều biến cố trong cuộc sống thì Quang và Ninda và mẹ của Quang đã thầm cảm ơn tạ ơn Chúa vì đã ban cho họ những phút này để giờ phút này họ đều được bình an ở bên nhau, nên cả gia đình Quang, Nina và mẹ Quang đều sẽ dẫn nhau đi nhà thờ để cầu nguyện, để xin Chúa sẽ ban nhiều sự may mắn và bình an xuống cho gia đình họ hơn nữa. Liệu rằng sau ngày hôm nay thì cuộc sống của Quang và Nina đã có thể êm đềm trôi qua hay không, hay còn biến cố nào trong cuộc sống sẽ đến với họ nữa hay không, tất cả sẽ được hé lộ ở các tập tiếp theo. Các bạn hãy đón xem nhé. Cảm ơn các bạn rất nhiều. Các bạn đừng quên bấm nút like và nút chia sẻ, để lại bình luận ở dưới video để ủng hộ kênh của mình nha. Cảm ơn các bạn. Bye bye.